Hello and welcome to the New Age Geek channel. If you're new here, building an inclusive space for people of all walks of life through the power of friendship. Tables are up and playing games. Tonight we have Investigation Check, our irregular interview show where we dive into the lives of the geek creators you want to know about. For tonight's episode, we have voice actor, professional actor, TTRPG player, AP performer, audiobook narrator, and the lifelong geek himself, Mark Garkusha. What's up, Mark? How are you doing tonight?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Good, good. Why don't you go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you, all the things you're doing.
Okay. You can find me at Mark Dimitri, MarkDmitri, on most of the social networks, or just Mark Garkusha on Facebook. If you're my aunts. And then if you want to listen to my audiobooks, you can go on Audible and search my name. That's where you'll find all those. Except for the spicy ones. Those are under a different name, which I will not be talking about.
Oh.
And then Gauntlet is an AP show that I'm on, which is great. You can go back and listen to old episodes of the Cast Eye Podcast, the AP that my once and future AP, Ghost Wax, a really fun scripted podcast that I'm on. And I've done a few episodes of Bill and Ashley's Terror Theater, so if you like horror movies,
Nice.
all this good. Monsters Run. They're doing Jaws once.
How does that work? Is it a scripted thing, and you just kind of they wrote it in the Jaws universe?
Oh no! It's just a show. It's just talking about movies.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Okay, Mark, are you ready to dive into tonight?
Let's do it, man.
All right. I want you to take me back. You're a big boy, so I'm gonna go 10-pound, 2-ounce little baby Mark. You come out of the womb. Right. Nailed it. First try. You come out of the womb. What's the first kind of introduction to geek life that you experience?
Probably like a lot of people my age, it would be He-Man.
No shit. God damn, there's a cut.
Yeah. I'm 43 years old, so when I was a little tyke, He-Man was king, and man, oh man, did I love that show. It had everything: swords, lasers, scary guy with a skull face,
a lion or panther, jaguar.
Whatever
I don't know what the hell that was.
Whatever Cringer / Battlecat was. According to the behind the scenes stuff, it was because they had when they were doing the He-Man action figure line, they had an extra tiger from a like Joe Adventure or something. I forget what it was called. And they were like, this tiger's way too big to use with He-Man. They were like, fucking paint it green and put some yellow stripes on it, dude. It's a giant tiger now.
There was a purple one too, right?
Skeletor's cat, Panther.
Yeah, Panther, okay.
It was purple.
I remember having both because I got them from an older uncle. I'm a little too young. I was 38. I am 38. So I was a little too young for He-Man, but I got all of his toys, so I had them all.
Yeah, you were prime time for when they tried to rebrand He-Man and nobody liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my first big introduction, I think.
Okay. So what about He-Man kind of do you feel hooked you as a kid and really?
The power fantasy, of being able to hold aloft a magic sword and say some magic words and become the most powerful man in the universe. That's I think that was again going back to the behind the scenes special, The Toys That Made Us, or I think that's what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, yeah, we tested, we did some focus groups, and the young male power fantasy was really,
no way.
That's how we're gonna get them. That's how we're gonna sell these toys. And it worked.
Yeah. Was there a particular character you felt really drawn to?
I was a He-Man guy.
Yeah.
I was He-Man for like 4 Halloweens in a row.
Wow.
Yeah, recently.
What was it about He-Man?
Not recently.
What was it about He-Man that you felt you really connected to as a character?
You know, he's a good guy, but he's also a lazy layabout. You know, his alter ego, Prince Adam, never wanted to do anything, and that spoke to me as well,
Okay.
as well as the hero part.
So where's your next step? You kind of you start diving into geek culture through He-Man. You kind of start indulging in other mediums. Where do you find yourself going? Like, what's the next big property you kind of latched onto?
Well, the 80s were a great time for fantasy. I think Katie in the chat just said I'm a little quiet. I'm gonna pop my volume a little bit real quick.
I've tried to adjust it on my end. Just
Okay, I'm back.
Yep, definitely louder.
Louder? Good.
Yeah.
Louder. Want to make sure everyone hears me talk about child power fantasies from the 80s. The 80s were a great time for fantasy, for all that stuff, like heavy metal music, Dungeons and Dragons. You know, I think like its first like big push was in the 80s. Thundar the Barbarian. Just a lot of good cartoons that centered on swords that people weren't allowed to like actually hit people with.
Yep.
Just like GI Joes. All the GI Joes had guns, but nobody ever got shot. The only time anybody ever got hurt was when Duke got hit by a snake in the movie. A snake spear, though. The snake got turned into a spear. Spoiler alert.
Thank you for covering that for us.
Yeah, this 35-year-old movie. But I had one of my neighbors, like one of my best friends when I was a kid. He had an older brother, so he was into all like the, you know, you'd go into his room and it was like Megadeth, you know, cool posters, rock and roll, denim jackets, and you know, because he was like 6 or 7 or 8 years older than us, we idolized him, and he was the one who was like our first DM.
Nice.
So yeah, I owe a lot of it to my buddy Jamie's older brother Steve.
Okay, so you started off really young then with D&D.
Yeah.
You remember if it was like first edition, the red box, or was it advanced?
It was AD&D. It
Okay.
was second edition AD&D. You know, that kind of crossover time.
Yeah.
And plus, he was running it for his, you know, dumb little brother and his dumb little friend. So I don't think we were probably playing pretty fast and loose with the rules.
Do you remember
but,
anything about that kind of first game?
Yeah. I remember we spent all this time making our characters. I made a ranger. My buddy made a paladin, and we were, you know, so excited, and we started playing. And I don't know if like my buddy's older brother like had something to do or was just sick of it, but he was like, and then a dragon turtle breathes poison on you guys and you die. And game over.
Nice.
See you later, nerds. So, yeah.
So I'm guessing D&D didn't really hook you at that point in time.
Oh no, it totally did. I was in love with it. He had all like the source books too.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, a big you know, a lot of our time was spent just like tracing monsters out of the monster manual, talking about what our characters would do, and then also playing Hero Quest, which was another, you know, it was Games Workshop actually, but you know, it was like you could play it without a DM. They re-released it recently, or there was a big Kickstarter, and now there's a new one. But we played the old one in the 80s, and it was great. That Castles and Catapults was another one.
Mm-hmm.
It was all fantasy stuff back then.
Yeah.
It a plethora of good properties.
So at what point, like, how do we move from there to kind of where we are getting now? Like, what about that early development in fantasy kind of led you up into wanting to do the things you're doing now, whether it be voice acting or AP performance or whatnot?
Well, again, to give some more credit to Steve, I've always had trouble sleeping. And I was also, when I was a kid, I would get really scared at sleepovers. I wouldn't want to, because one, I would stay up all night, and then like my friends would be asleep, my friends' parents would be asleep. I'd be sitting in somebody else's house, and I'd be like, this sucks.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would just like call my mom and go home, because the sleepover we lived on a dead end street. It was the '80s. We were allowed to walk around.
Yep.
Not to sound like a Gen X / boomer, but so like there was one time I remember my buddy had fallen asleep and I was there and I was in the bathroom so I could have the light on and I was just reading comic books in the bathroom. And Steve came home and he was like, dude, what are you doing? And I was like, I can't sleep. And he was like, come in here. And he like went back into the the living room or the play room or whatever we were, where we were staying. And he got down Dragons of Autumn Twilight, the one of those classic Margaret Weiss, Tracy Hickman Dragonlance books. And he was like, here, dude, read this. And I started reading that and I was like, oh my God, I've never, experienced anything like this. And then I read all those books and then like the Drizzt Do'Urden books. And I really, really fell in love with the fantasy genre. And I feel like it goes hand in hand with performing and acting as far as like, the playing the games goes. And sorry, I just got overcome with the idea of playing games. Like it's such a, like, playing games is such a cool thing, man. It's like such a cool way to keep learning and keep your childish wonder alive. Yeah, and I got into acting because a friend of mine and I were like I had done some stuff, but then like when junior high was rolling around or middle school or whatever it was rolling around, we were like, what classes can we take that are super easy and are going to have girls in them? And we're like chorus and theater. And then that summer he moved away. So I went into chorus and theater by myself. The chorus thing didn't last because I can't sing, but I'm still doing the acting stuff. So that was thanks, Elmo.
Okay.
His name was.
So what about I know you said you can't sing, so that's why we dropped chorus, but what about acting kind of, did you feel as that much younger man kind of hook you and make you continue on doing it?
It's that idea of, of inhabiting a different character of, again, kind of goes back to that like power fantasy, like when you're a little nerdy 10-year-old, the idea of playing a, powerful character with their own agency and magical powers is really appealing. But I think more than that, just I was always drawn to acting, not just for an easy A, but the idea of like kind of like getting into somebody else's headspace and the performing aspect. I've always been a little bit of a spotlight hog kind of guy. Why
do you feel like that is kind of influenced by some of your early development with like He-Man being the center of attention, or do you see those parallels in your own life?
Yeah. I think like I was a pretty precocious kid, and I was an only child for the first 5 years of my life. So I was kind of, the center of attention. Like there was in my extended family too, like my cousin and I were the two oldest.
Mm-hmm.
So like at all the time we were like putting on shows and, getting praise for, our dumb little shows. But I tried it and I liked it.
Nice.
I'm still doing it. Yeah.
So do you find yourself being drawn to a certain type of role, or do you see you like to explore different avenues, and like what's your kind of process with that?
Yes.
Nailed it.
Yes. In a word, yes. I think so. Like I was having a conversation about this with my brother recently. We were talking about like what makes a good actor, and I think whenever you're acting, you are to a certain extent playing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But yourself in a different set of circumstances, and it can go from like, this is me if I was living in LA, or it can be, this is me if I was a like tortured artist who was forced to give it up, and I don't know what I'm not improving well right now, but it's always a like you're putting a part of yourself to a greater or lesser extent into the role, I think.
Uh-huh.
For me, acting wise. So yeah, I do seek out roles. I mean, I'll take any role I can get. I've got
Anything you
bills.
want to give me.
Yeah. Literally, I'm like, I seek out roles that have a paycheck.
Yep.
That's my number one seeking out thing. But beyond that, I like to do things where I get to explore different aspects of myself. You kind of like blow some things up and shrink some things down, and I think it's really interesting to try and like get into the head of the character. So maybe, I do a lot of audiobooks, and I have a lot of fun with the villains, generally, because they don't think they're villains. And to kind of like get in that headspace and, try and figure out how you can get there, to the point where you're setting off a bomb in DC, or I do political thrillers, or whatever. There's always like, I find that there's always a way for you to kind of like get in there and get in that headspace and kind of just behave believably in unbelievable circumstances. And I think that's, such a huge part of fantasy role-playing too, or sci-fi, or any role-playing really. You're just trying to behave realistically in whatever the circumstances are, however fantastical or science fictional they are.
So let me ask you this, because I've listened to a few audiobooks, and I know sometimes it's a little different. When you are recording for an audiobook, is it just you doing all of the characters, or is it you are a character in the audiobook?
The vast majority of the ones I've done have been one narrator.
Okay.
So, that is and that's kind of great. I understand, especially in some types of books, you want to have at least a male and female sounding person. But from my perspective, as the narrator, it's really fun to get to play all of those characters.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah. Simpatico. Not unlike being a DM, not unlike running a game. You're kind of, you have to keep all these ideas and motivations in the air as you're playing all these different, BBEGs, NPCs, and other acronyms. At least in an audiobook, it's all written down,
Right.
and you don't have to worry about that part so much.
Well, let me ask you this then. What kind of goes into your process then, and how is it different from being a DM? Like, you have these characters that are laid out before you, and then you have your notes for the characters that are supposed to be in your game. Are those two processes the same? Or is it a different kind of like mental exercise for you for those two things?
Yeah, I think the main difference is when you're DMing, especially if you're like kind of there's so much more on the fly stuff happens, and it's so much more of a collaborative process that can go anywhere at any given time. You might have an idea for an NPC of like, this is a kindly shopkeeper and he's going to be really helpful. And then one of your players starts acting like an asshole and you're like, wait a minute, now he doesn't want to help them so much, and then it's a really like collaborative process. Whereas with a audiobook, I have the characters in advance and I know the story and I know exactly what's going to happen. So it's easier to kind of build you can build a whole house rather than doing it brick by brick.
Okay.
That makes sense. I mean, you're still doing it brick by brick over the course of the story, but you have a blueprint.
Right. Yeah, the framing's already laid out.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Which kind? Let me ask this before I get into that. When you are recording for an audiobook, are they like, is it laid out like D&D notes? Like, this is this character, these are his motivations, or is it these are his lines? Good luck.
So I do the layout myself.
Okay.
Sometimes you'll get like a character breakdown, like this is the protagonist, and then like a little bit of about each person. But even when I get that, I'll go beyond that and I make like a little chart of like, it's from acting, from my acting training. There's a thing called Le Bon technique, and it's so I use a variation of that about like, so like where like the person's voice sits and how they sound. Sometimes I'll have a like celebrity note, but I'm not terribly good at impressions, so it doesn't matter. Nobody can ever tell who I'm doing an impression of. Except for I had one person in a review be like, one of the characters sounded like Keanu Reeves, and I was like, son of a bitch, I'm gonna have to
that's going on the resume.
all right, Keanu Reeves impression. But yeah, no, I do find that very helpful, especially like when you're working on a series, and you'll have characters that come back after a couple books or whatever. So it's really handy to kind of have like that, to be able to go back and be like, all right, this is who this guy is.
Okay.
You can kind of easily get back into the voice. And
do you look back to the old project you did when you have to bring a new character back? Like, is it like, I need to remember what my accent was?
Sometimes, yeah. That's a handy thing about the fact that the audiobooks are published, and I can listen to them whenever. And I use unpaid shout out here for Positron, which is a really great, if you do audiobooks, it's a really great proofing software that will go through and like pick out all the names of the characters and like put them in a list, and then all the hard words to say it'll pick out and put them in a list. So I can go back and I have all the books I've done saved, so I can go back and be like, all right, this book that I did a year and a half ago, this guy, I can just listen to his lines and get right back into the accent, into the cadence. Nice. And all that stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you find the process of making D&D characters and NPCs and stuff like that do you find yourself relying on some of those tricks and the bases you have for audiobooks, or do you find it the tools you've built as a DM influencing your audiobook recording?
Yeah, I think it goes both ways for sure. Like that was my first experience, really, like, doing DMing, of like trying to keep several different characters going, or, as much as I hate to do it, like having two NPCs talk to each other in a session. I always feel kind of self-conscious doing that.
Never fun.
Yeah. So I try and kill NPCs off as quickly as possible.
Can only be one.
Yeah. One at a time, guys. One at a time. But yeah, no, for sure. Like, I think I've always been a do voices kind of guy. But now, having 20 some odd, 30, I don't know, audiobooks under my belt, I have gotten it down to more of a science. Once you're getting paid for something, I find that to be a good motivator to get better at it.
Fair.
But and in a D&D game, you can be like, oh, what the hell's this guy's accent? What does he sound like? Who does anybody remember? And in an audiobook, that's frowned upon.
I could see that being problematic.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked about the audiobooks a bit, and how you kind of got into that line of work. At what point do you start to take D&D a little bit more seriously? Like you start to think, this is something I'd like to pursue, this is something that I want to put a little bit more effort into, and how does that kind of journey look like for you?
It's interesting because there was a definite influence there. Because if you remember, like 5 years ago, there was a worldwide pandemic.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it happened.
Unfamiliar.
It's a thing. Coors Light, something.
That would be a great virus. Coors Light virus.
I've had that virus. So before that, before COVID, I was almost like 99% commercial voiceover, which is the absolute best gig in the world. If you can make a comfortable living doing commercial voiceover, it is the tits. Because,
why?
So like, I would go to a lot of auditions, and back then, before COVID, you would go to auditions, so you had to live in New York or LA, because you'd have to actually go to the auditions. And so, like, for a couple hours every day, I would be tooling around the city going to auditions. And then, you do like one commercial for Long John Silver, and then your rent is paid for 4 months.
Wow.
And maybe, I don't know what your rent is, but I mean, it's wildly fluctuating, the pay rates, but it was a really great way to work, like, 15 hours a week and make a really good living. And then COVID happened, and nobody was going anywhere anymore for auditioning or even recording. So everything, 99% of work went to from home. So you had to have a home studio.
Yeah.
Which is an investment. But it also went from like me seeing the same 10 guys at every audition to the pool opening up a huge amount.
Okay.
So like the jobs became harder to get for a while there. And also because like every actor who like never wanted to do voiceover, they were like, oh, theaters are shut down, production shut down. Oh, I can do voiceover? Great. So it was a lot tougher to get work there for a while, which is how I got into audiobooks, because it was like, instead of working 15 hours and making however much, I don't want to be gauche. Um, I would work 40 hours and make, a third of that.
Right.
So when I started the podcast, when my friends and I started the podcast, I was still kind of in that mindset of like, I hardly have to work. I do like 3 or 4 hours of work a week and I make my money. Which is not, whatever. It's not easy. It's hard. It's really hard. You shouldn't try it. It's hard. No one else should do it but me. But
Fair.
so yeah, I was saying before we started recording, like when I was doing the podcast at first, I was treating it like a full-time job, between like, and I was stupid about editing. I was going way too in depth with the editing and music and everything. But kind of like then over the course of 2020, 2021, my money ran out, and I was like, oh well, I have to figure out how to start making money again. And while I do love doing audiobooks, they are much more time consuming than just making money off commercials. So that kind of forced me to put the D&D stuff on a back burner for a while. But now, things are getting better, and I'm looking forward to doing my mental health the favor of playing more games.
Okay. When do you see your channels kind of coming back?
Hopefully pretty soon. I've been saying that for 2 years, but so much stuff coming down the pipeline, guys. I can't wait to share it with you. I've said that a bunch of times. No, but this year I hope to, and not at the rate of putting out an hour and a half AP podcast every week, probably. But doing one shots with my buddies and stuff like that. I see that happening for sure this year.
Are you guys strictly podcasts, or do you like video?
I do want to get into the streaming now at this point, majorly because of the lack of post-production.
Okay.
Which is the real time sink for podcasts, for me anyway. But yeah, no, I would like to do both.
Okay. What about playing D&D online kind of drew you in? Like, I know you could just play D&D at home. Like, what really hooked you to want to do it online?
Well, again, COVID. Like I went from having like a weekly in-person game at my buddy's house to having a weekly online game. And as much as I love playing live, it's still, playing live is still my favorite. But the like bringing a box of 100 minis on a subway for an hour
Never
is
could
not
fall.
not the most fun thing in the world. And just the ease with which you can play online, and the ability to like play with people who are not in your neighborhood is pretty fantastic. I've met so many cool people through playing online in the past 5 years, and I am very thankful for that.
So talk to me a little bit about what exactly the Gauntlet and the Cast Eye podcast is like. What kind of stories do you guys tell? What's that look like?
So Gauntlet is run by my buddy Jordan Gwizdowski, and it's a deep dive into Tyranny of Dragons. It's a really, Jordan's a great DM, and he's doing a really fantastic job with kind of getting down to the bones of the pod of the mod, the module in the pod, the mod in the pod, and he does a great job with the kind of like emotional weight of what's going on. You know, not just slashing and bashing and collecting XP, but like how is this affecting the character? Um, and yeah, it's a great show. Like I said, we're on a bit of a hiatus recording wise, but hopefully we'll get back in there soon. And Cast Eye, our thing was, and I think going back to like talking about He-Man and Thunder the Barbarian, all that '80s stuff, was we really loved the old school aesthetic, of that feel, that vibe, that kind of grittiness of the old school stuff, but we didn't like the bullshit that is sometimes associated with it. The kind of like gatekeepery, grognardy.
Yeah.
Orcs are bad and drow are also bad. So we went for that old school aesthetic with new school vibes.
Mentality. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I know you said your friend is the DM of Gauntlet. Are you DMing Cast Eye or?
Usually. Yeah. The main storyline, I was the DM, and then we did a lot of one shots with different creators, a lot of play testing with great people like John Hambone McGuire, his 3-2-1 action system. So many that I'll cut in later. Jesus Christ.
There's no editing on this show.
Peter Schaefer, the Well, just so many great systems. And like the great thing was we would get these people who designed these systems to come on and run games with us.
Nice.
So what better way to like experience a new system than with the people who designed it. So that those I would not DM. Those would be the people who created the systems. But yeah, mostly I was DMing on that cast.
Do you find yourself enjoying TTRPGs more when you're the DM or a player?
I feel like I enjoy them both equally.
Okay.
I might give a slight edge to DMing.
Okay.
Because it lets me talk more.
Okay.
Lets me be in control more. No, I do love DMing because I think it's such a cool thing to kind of like be the one guiding the story. I've made this analogy before, but it's kind of like I used to be in a sketch group, and we would like write all of our own sketches and everything. And when you're in a sketch that you wrote, it's kind of like there's a lot of pressure. Like you're like listening to the reaction from the audience. You're kind of trying to like keep all this stuff in your head. Whereas when you're in a sketch that somebody else wrote, you're kind of just having fun.
Right.
It's so it's a balance. There's more involved, obviously, in DMing, but I think it can be a richer experience. Whereas just playing is also wonderful. I think you can still get a really wonderful, rich experience from playing, but you don't have to invest as much up front.
It's a little bit more of just a surface level enjoyment, whereas the DM, you're really diving into the ocean of all the creation.
Yeah. There's a little less pressure when you're just playing. When you're DMing, If you're somebody who constantly seeks approval from everyone around you, like I am, it can be really nerve wracking. Like, are you having fun? Is everybody having fun? Are we all having fun? Whereas as a player, you just have to have fun. So
I'm guessing you're someone who enjoys being under pressure and like having that like extra drive to kind of be a creator.
yeah. I think like a lot of ADHD kids, I need that pressure in order to actually do anything. I think that also, to keep when it's something that you love, when it's something that you really enjoy and get a lot of value out of, it's not hard to do, in my experience. So, like that extra effort of DMing, that extra pressure, I feel like oh God, when do I feel the pressure? I think I feel the pressure, yeah, if I look around and I see like, somebody's on their phone or something, and whatever they could be, doing. They could be looking at their character sheet. I don't know, but it's like you get those creeping doubts of like, oh, maybe not everybody's having fun. Maybe everyone hates me. Maybe they're only doing this because my mom paid them to be here. But I think if you can tune that voice out, it's fun.
So when you're voice acting, what is providing that pressure for you then that's keeping you engaged and keeping you like wanting to keep doing this?
That's a great question. It's a combination of, again, wanting everyone to like you at all times, and also, paying the bills, having an income. But I don't know. I think the most underlying thing is, just like a desire for approval. Like I want to be told I'm doing a good job. Especially with voiceover, because even when it was all in the studio, I would be in the studio, but I would be in a booth like this, not like, sometimes I'd be able to see like some of the people out the window, but I wouldn't be able to see everybody. And they would say like, all right, Mark, that was a great take. We're gonna put you on mute for a minute and talk. And then I'd just be sitting in there like, man, I hope they're saying nice things out there. So it's, yeah, I guess it always comes down to like the battle of like trying to be secure in the product that you're putting out, in the performance that you're giving, and also like letting the fear motivate you.
So I feel like I'm starting to see it. Do you see the parallels between the 80s fantasy genre hero story and the way you are interpreting life? Like the person, like you're out there trying to do your best. Do you see that kind of influence on the way you are approaching things? Or
yeah, for sure. I think there is like that duality with a lot of people in general, but also like the kind of the face that you show the world, and then like your private thoughts and feelings. And I think there is certainly that aspect of like the duality of being a like self-confident in a good way, like confident in yourself,
right,
and confident in your abilities, and also like using the crippling self-doubt to kind of like keep you motivated and fueled to to keep working and keep trying to get better. Which is a really fun tightrope to walk. If it's working, you know, like there's certainly been times where I've like, you know, a few years ago when like the work really dried up, I was like, did I get bad at this all of a sudden? Like, was it a fluke before? Was it just a series of flukes? And do I actually suck at this? You know, there was a lot of that, but and I think a big part of like kind of digging out of that hole was getting back into the mentality that I had before of like, you know, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do the best job I can do. And if you like it, great. I'm going to focus on being happy to be here and doing the best I can do. And one of the studios I used to work in, there was the technician had a neon sign above his board that said "Work hard and be nice," and like that is, I think, like the best advice in any genre of work, any type of work. I think is to work hard, do your best, do a good job, but also like be nice to be around. You know, be someone who people want to continue to work with. And yeah, I think that's a roundabout way of saying that, like, the kind of the mask that we wear, that we present, I don't, is it even a mask? I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a duality of your nature. But yeah, I think if you can find that good symbiotic relationship between the, you know, like scared part and the confident part, I think that's where the magic happens. That's where the work comes in.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Quite all right. Never apologize for a dog.
Hold on one sec. This dog's gonna go crazy if I don't let him out.
Oh, fair enough.
Thank you. Okay. Two dogs. One's very small and yappy. One is big and quiet.
They should try New Blue Wilderness from Blue Buffalo.
You've heard it first, folks. You've heard it here first, folks. Yeah. All right, I lost my train of thought here a little bit. So when you are kind of being a creator and kind of going out there and creating new things, whether it be a story or an angle you're taking for a character that's a new character for a book, how do you kind of stay inspired and generate those fresh ideas?
I think, again, it's kind of part of that mindset of working hard and being nice and being happy to be there. Like, you know, it always kills me, and I'm guilty of it too, but it always kills me when, like, I'll be talking to actory buddies, voiceover buddies, and, you know, we'll just like start bitching and moaning about stuff, and like, you know, like, oh my God, can you believe, like, did you have to do that audition? Oh, like they wanted like a 5-minute read, and like the job only pays blah, 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 and like, and we bitch about it, but at the end of the day, it's a really great job. It's a really fun way to be able to, you know, make money. And so yeah, working hard, being nice, and, you know, letting yourself get drawn into the project, whether it's an AP, whether it's an audiobook, whether it's a, you know, shoe shine commercial. You have to, like, if you start from that place of like being happy to be there and like letting it, you know, kind of come through you from that perspective, I think it's a lot easier to get into it. And when that fails, there's my favorite acting advice from all time is from Spencer Tracy, and he said, "Hit your mark and say your lines." And you know, I I think that's really great. And if you go back and watch old Spencer Tracy movies, whenever he walks into the shot, you'll see him look down to make sure he's standing where he's supposed to be standing. And you know, it's because with acting, it's a performance, and at the end of the day, like if you enjoy your performance, if you have a cathartic experience while you're acting, that's the best.
Yeah.
That's like so fantastic. I think that's why a lot of actors do it. But that is secondary. Your experience is secondary to the audience's experience. You know, and that's something that's also really a difference between playing a home game of D&D and an AP. You know, when you're playing a home game, it only matters if the people at the table are having fun. But when you're doing an AP, you kind of have to be also performative and concerned about, you know, the audience, which is an extra layer. Yeah. So to answer your question, yeah, I kind of always try and come at everything with an idea, with a feeling of like joy and gratitude. And it's one of those things, you know, where like they say, like if you smile, you'll start to feel happy. And I think if you focus on like that idea of being grateful and being joyful, you can start to feel that way. Yeah. And also focusing on your scene partner.
Okay.
You know, like it's one of the great things, like one of the best, you know, improv lessons is like focus on making, or any acting really, but especially with improv. If you focus on making your scene partner look good, you're going to look good. You know, like if you try and be a supportive like partner, then the two of you are gonna, or however many there are of you, are gonna give a nice performance. Generally.
Okay. So I want to ask two more questions before we start to kind of get ready to wrap up here. One would be it's got to be a heavy, stressful toll on yourself being this AP performer, being out there, like trying to audition for these things. What do you kind of do to deal with some of the stresses that may come in, whether it be to produce a great D&D show or to be a great voice actor on audiobooks and all these different things? Like, do you have any tips or tricks for people?
Just have a lot of natural raw talent, you know, just
Nailed
be
it.
really, yeah, just be really good at everything right off the bat. No, it's I you know, I keep going back to that well of like, you know, if you're happy to be there wherever you are, you know, and that's not to say like, oh, make yourself happy where you are, you know, like I'm not saying like settle or whatever, but like when you walk into a room, like let the people in that room know that you're happy to be there. And if you want to get into acting in general or voiceover or whatever, or APs, like be prepared for lots of rejection and try not to let it bother you. I remember I used to play a lot of poker, and I was a pretty good poker player, and like this is like in my 20s when I was broke a lot, and I would find that like when I was broke, I would win less because I would be like, I need the $100 from this $20 poker game
Mhm.
by, I need the pot. So I wouldn't play as well. And then when I had a little cash, I would play better because I wasn't as like worried about it. And it's the same thing. Like if you go to an audition and you're like, I need this.
Yeah.
I need this so badly. Yeah, for me, that does not help.
Mhm.
Which is why I try and never like when you get a lot of these breakdowns, it'll say what the rate is. And I try to never look at that.
Yeah.
I try and give the same performance if it's for, an $150 industrial or a $15,000 like, McDonald's commercial, whatever it is.
Uh-huh.
Like I try and be happy to be there. I try and, like hit my mark and say my line. It's always the same set of parameters, I think.
How do you kind of get into that mindset of like just be happy to be there? Do you have like something that you do?
I will drink like a pint of vodka. No, that's after. I think about the pint of vodka that I'm gonna drink after the audition. I don't know, man. That's the hard part. Like that's the tricky part, I think, is finding a way to kind of live in that space, and live in that mindset, live in that heart set, maybe.
Okay.
Of yeah, man. I don't know. Like any way that you can like help yourself be happy, I guess, is a good way to do it. And again, just don't let the rejection get you down. A lot of I don't know if it's attributed to any one actor, but I hear it a lot of you go into an audition and you say, when you go in there, you say like, I am the answer to the problem that you have is that you don't have someone to do this. And here I am, the answer, the solution to your problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like one aspect of it. And then like, it's also, like, look, I'm going to do this my way. And here's my take on this. And if you like it, fantastic. Let's work together. If you don't like it, that's cool too. Like you just kind of have to have that,
laissez-faire attitude.
Yeah, kind of. That like, like it's all, it's all good, man. Like what if you like me, great. If you don't like me for this, that's cool too. You're dumb and you're stupid and you hurt my feelings, but it's fine.
I'm not taking it personally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I do feel that the most, like when I don't get an audiobook though. Like if it's something I audition for and like I'm like, oh man, this is like right up my alley.
Yeah.
I think my voice would be really good for this, and I think like all this stuff, and like, I'm like, oh man, I nailed that audition, and I wrote the author a nice letter, and then like they don't respond to my letter and I don't get it. I'm like, you're dumb.
Fuck you. You're wrong.
Yeah, you're a stupid, dumb idiot with bad taste.
Your book sucks.
Yeah, good luck. That's a bestseller. I'm like, son of a bitch.
All right. As we're getting ready to wrap up here, Mark, I want to ask you a few questions.
Yeah.
Is there any dream projects or collaborations you'd like to kind of pursue in the future?
Oh, man. Yeah, absolutely. Of course. I would love, like a bunch of my buddies have done it, and I'm incredibly jealous of them. I'd love to get into one of the, the Marvel or DC projects. That would just be a real bucket list type deal. Be it a cartoon or a video game or whatever, or if they're casting a superhero, if they're casting a out of shape 43-year-old for I don't know. I have a pretty in-depth knowledge of comic book lore. No one is springing to mind.
I'm sure we can find
But
someone.
yeah. Go in a different direction.
Marvel's catalog is deep.
It's a deep catalog. I think that would be a dream. And then as far as APs go, man, like there's so many like big names out there that I would love to like get the opportunity to work with someday. We were talking about Matt Lillard, Matthew Lillard before the show, and like Faster Purple Worm Kill, I think is like one of the best shows out there right now. It's just such a fun show. That would be pretty amazing. And I think with APs especially, and this is a more realizable, I think, goal, dream project, is like just like getting friends of mine who don't play, but are in other aspects of the arts. I've been trying to get that going for a while, and I do hope to get that off the ground soon.
Okay. We're gonna jump to a quick break real quick because I'm gonna use the bathroom. We'll be back in less than 5 minutes.
Sounds good.
All right. Sorry about that, everyone. We're back. So let me ask you this, Mark. Has there been kind of like a pivotal moment or turning point in your career that has shaped the way you approach content creation in general, whether it be voice acting or the gigs you take or anything like that?
Yeah. I think we have kind of touched on it a little bit. To give it a little backstory, people always ask, like how to get into voiceover, and I did it like the classic way, which is to get an acting degree and then bartend in New York City for 20 years, and wait until an agent comes into your bar and tells you you have a good voice. That I think is the easiest way to do it. But yeah, I mean, like that was a big career changer. I went from like almost always or almost totally making my living by bartending, which I loved and I do miss sometimes, to actually like making money with the degree that I was in debt for so long. So that was a big change. And then the other one, again, was COVID, man. As much as I enjoy not having a commute, I do really miss the social aspect of, going into a studio for auditions and like seeing my buddies in the waiting room and all that stuff. But as I said, as much as I miss that, the ability to work from home and kind of have that freedom to work on other projects and do other things, when I'm taking my medicine and focusing, is a really wonderful opportunity to have. It's a really big gift to be able to do that. And if COVID hadn't happened, I wouldn't have started an AP podcast with my buddies. I wouldn't have, met so many cool people online and at cons. Like it's like I know COVID was hard for some people, but it was great. No,
It's worked out great for me.
yeesh. No, I didn't take out any huge loans and then not pay them back during COVID. So it didn't work out that well. But I did get more into the online TTRPG scene, and I did make a lot of really great friends. And I think that's a pretty big game changer. So yeah, instead of saying COVID, I'll say the online TTRPG community.
Okay. All right, Mark. I think that's going to bring us to the end of the interview, and obviously our last question. For all the TikToks, sit up straight. Make sure you look good for the TikToks.
Right.
All right, Mark.
Yeah.
What message or impact do you hope to leave through your content on the geek space?
Man, I hope that a little bit that I can, in however small of a way, give that message of coming to whatever you're doing from a place of gratitude and joy, as much of like a goofy actory thing as that might sound. Because I think, as we were talking about, I feel like if you're doing that, it's going to be like better for you, for your heart and your soul, and also better for your output. And if any of the stories that I tell or help tell can bring some happiness, escape, or joy to anybody who needs it, I think that is I could be very happy knowing that I had a hand in making people happy. I think is a pretty fantastic legacy to have.
Amazing. All right. Well, this has been an amazing interview. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are going to open up the chat to viewer questions. So if you have any questions for Mark, go ahead and start getting those in the chat. While we wait for those questions to come in, we're going to switch over to our Dicey Questions segment. This is 20 random questions determined by a D20 roll. So go ahead and roll me a D20 there, Mark.
All right. Okay. D20. Here it comes. Back on the table. 7.
If you had to oh Jesus Christ. If you had to befriend any superhero, who would you hang out with and why?
Oh, man. That's tough. Like, I want to say maybe, I think there's going to be an answer in 2 parts, I think. Maybe Green Lantern. I was a big fan of his growing up. Because maybe we're hanging out, we're having a few beers, he lets me try that ring on.
Okay. Which Green Lantern,
but,
just so I know.
I mean, I'm a Hal Jordan guy.
Okay.
he was, you know, I'm 43 years old. I grew up with Hal Jordan. But I like the other. Also, you know, I don't know. Jon Stewart on the cartoon, he was a little too taciturn. You know, I don't know if he'd be a fun hang. Very cool guy, great character. Fun hang, I'm not sure.
I don't know. He's a vet, so as a
Yeah.
as a fellow vet, I guarantee we'd be fucking crushing him.
All right. Yeah. Okay. But I think I was watching a Mike Mignola documentary the other day. I think Hellboy would be pretty fun to hang out with.
I can see that. I can see that. All right. Give me another D20 roll.
Here it comes. 17.
All right. Who's your default character in Mario Kart and Smash Bros?
Default Mario. I feel it was always Toad when I was growing up.
Okay.
I don't know why. I think because I liked the way he handled in the earlier ones. He was light, fat, good acceleration. I like the noises that he made. Recently, I think I've gone in the last Mario Kart. I kind of went boring, but with Mario, I think he was a pretty well balanced character. Or Luigi. Luigi's fun. And in Smash Brothers, Link. I was a Link guy.
I get a lot of Link. People always are bringing up Link. So, what is it about Link that you enjoy in that combat kind of scenario?
The tools. You know, he's got the sword. Great. Got the grappling hook. He throws bombs. The boomerang. These are all weapons that I'm familiar with from playing the games. Although, for pure rage inducing in other people,
Kirby.
Jigglypuff.
Oh, okay.
Or Kirby, yeah. Wait, was Jigglypuff playable? It's been a while since I played Smash Brothers.
Me too.
You can play Jigglypuff, right?
I think so. In the new ones, I think you can play Jigglypuff.
All right, maybe.
I'm not a Nintendo person,
like a
so
special move. I don't know. I used to love making people go to sleep with Jigglypuff because it would make people really mad.
Okay. We've already got one question already, but if anyone else has any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat as we give me one more D20 roll, and then we'll jump over to those.
D20. 1. Natural 1.
All right. What is your favorite anime, and what do you consider the most overrated anime?
Holy shit. Gonna piss off some nerds here.
You rolled a natural 1, so
natural 1. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's really hard. I gotta say, Vampire Hunter D. I really, really loved Vampire Hunter D growing up.
Mm-hmm.
But the first one I really watched a lot and really fell in love with as a kid was Nausicaa, Valley of the Wind.
Valley of the Wind. Yep.
Yeah. Which I was watching it on VHS in the 80s, and it wasn't called Nausicaa Valley of the Wind. It was called like Wind Warriors or something. It was before they had the re-release in the was that late 90s. But yeah, those were my two favorites growing up. What is the most overrated? Man, that's hard. I want to say Pokemon just to piss people off, but I fucking loved watching Pokemon, man. It was on when I was in college.
Yeah.
Like I would, I didn't have a lot of classes during the day because I went to all I had was rehearsals at night. So I would just like watch Pokemon and whatever other Passions was a really good. That's not an anime. It was a magic soap opera, but it was really good. Overrated. Oh shit. I feel like all the ones I watch I like. So yeah, I don't know if I have one. I don't know if I have an overrated one.
Well, what are you not watching that's super popular that you're just like, this isn't it?
Oh, I mean that's a lot. I
Yeah.
like, you know, I never got into Dragon Ball Z. I never got into it. I don't know. And I tried watching Attack on Titan, but I couldn't get into that either.
Ooh, I think Attack on Titan's my answer because I loved the first season.
Okay.
And I started the second season. I'm like, I can't even finish this. Like 3 episodes in, I'm like, I'm bored as shit.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what it was in the beginning. So like,
Yeah.
when Aaron gets fucking eaten, and I'm like, what is this show?
Yeah.
I think that would be my answer. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. What do you got?
Yeah.
What do you got?
Oh, what was I fell asleep during Spirited Away.
That's fair. That's fair.
But again, you know, I don't want to say it's overrated. I will say I went to see it when it was released in the theater, and it was the first time I'd seen it, and I did fall asleep in the theater.
Yeah.
Which has never happened before.
I think Mononoke is my favorite.
Mononoke is fantastic.
Fucking, I will watch that anytime it's on, anytime I can.
Yeah. I like bad guys.
Yeah.
I like, you know, conflict and bad guys. Like I was having this conversation with, you know, my nephew is just over a year old, and so he's watching a lot of cartoons, watching a lot of Disney cartoons, and all of the recent Disney movies. The villain is always like generational trauma,
Right.
or like not believing in yourself.
Yeah.
And like, give me in Dragon, like give me an evil stepmother.
Yeah.
I want an actual villain. I want somebody to fall into a burning cathedral at the end of the movie. I don't want everyone to just make up. Give me some bad guys.
All right. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of Dicey Questions. We've got 2 questions from the chat. We're going to see. This is from Katie O'Lady. Oh, it's a good Irish name. Katie O'Lady.
Oh, Katie O'Lady.
I wonder who that could be. Well, Katie O'Lady wants to know, what movie or book premise do you think would make a great D&D campaign?
Wow. A few just spring into mind immediately. The Wheel of Time. You know, just because like that's a magic system that would never fit into
So good.
like you know, 5e. Like I don't know. It's I know there's been I think there has been actually a 5e adaptation of it, but
Really?
yeah, I don't know if it was fan made or what, or no, I think it was actually official in 3rd edition. But I think if somebody tackled that and like really did the magic system in a cool way, that would be awesome. And then Harry Dresden, the Dresden Files.
Yeah.
That would be a lot of fun, just because there's so much room for, you know, if you want to play a wizard, if you want to play a vampire, which court, red court, white court, who knows? Yeah, I think those 2 would be really cool, just because there's so much there. Or Mistborn, which Katie actually turned me on to.
I'll leave that joke alone. Where are you at with the Wheel of Time? Are you watching the show at all?
I really enjoyed the first season.
Uh-huh.
The second season lost me.
Really?
Yeah. When Matt blew the horn of Valir, and that was a real big letdown for me. And when he tied the dagger to the stick,
That's fair. Yeah, I'll give you that one. But
that was a bummer for me.
the third season is the best
I've heard
season
the third season's
thus
really good.
far. So
Yeah,
good.
I've heard that. I'm gonna give it another shot.
I really want the Black Tower to come, because I really think it's gonna be very interesting to see, like, them bringing in
Yes.
all those male channelers.
The Ashaman, yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah, and that's another, like, I started reading that book
Yeah.
in like, or that series in like 1990, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe not, I was 9 years old. Maybe not, maybe like, whatever. I was like 13 when I
Yeah.
started reading it. And I finished it when I was like 30. So like
Yeah.
it was such a huge part of my life for so long. Yeah, I did hear that the third season's really good, so I will go back and give it another shot.
Amazon, give us the fourth season. Come on.
Come on.
Get rid of the Lord of the Rings show. Give us the Wheel of Time.
They've got enough money.
Oh, I just love the way they do the weave. Like, visually on that show is gorgeous.
Cool. Yeah.
Oh.
And what's her name who plays Moraine is fantastic.
Oh yes. Oh, she's so good.
She's so good.
Oof. Probably the best part of that show is Rosamund Pike. She's so good.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and this last question is from Reese GP. They want to know, what is your funniest D&D moment as a DM or a player?
Oh wow. There's so many, and so many that like would have you just falling about in Giggle Town at the table that like are not funny to like if you actually relate it. But let's see. One that, can I tell that? Yeah. One that springs to mind was so when you're a DM, you see how things are laid out. You're looking at the unfogged battle map, and there was one time when we were doing Cast Die where I had built this encounter where these like intelligent wolf creatures had set up an ambush on the party as they were coming down the road, and like one of them was in the road ahead of the party and had to like stop them and distract them. And then I had in the fog of war there on the map all the other ones like on the side of the road hiding in the trees. And one of the characters was like, all right, I slip off my horse and stealth into the underbrush, and just like literally like next to
you bump into an enemy.
yeah. And it was one of these things where I was gonna take a screenshot real quick and I'm gonna show it to you guys at the end of the next turn. She ended up going down in that combat. She didn't die in that combat, but she went down in that combat. And it was pretty funny. That's one that springs to mind.
Okay. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of the interview. Mark, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Let everyone know where they can find you, all the things you're doing, everywhere they can catch you.
I am at Mark Dimitri, MarkDmitri on Instagram and what's the Threads, and I don't really do Twitter anymore because it's a fascist hellscape most of the time, but those two, and Facebook, Mark Garkusha. And then if you want to check out any of the audiobooks I've done, like the Jason Trapp series, you can find those on Audible if you search my name, or if you search Jack Slater, the very talented author, or any of the other books I've done on there. If you're a fantasy fan, you should check out Oathbreakers Anonymous. It's about a group of fallen paladins who band together to re-win the favor of their respective gods. It's definitely one of my favorite projects that I've done. And then please check out the Cast Eye podcast backlog, as there will be new stuff coming soon. Gauntlet, where you will also see Katie O'Lady. Ghost Wax, my great friends at Far and Tall Productions make a wonderful show. And pretty soon, for the 50th anniversary of Jaws, I'll be doing an episode of Bill and Ashley's Terror Theater with my good friend Steve French. I'm very much looking forward to that, and I would love for everyone to listen to it.
Nice. All right. Well, we are going to jump over in a raid to the Crit Hit Chronicles. Cujo's doing Tales the Valiant, the Sybil Origin episode. As far as New Age Geeks is concerned, you can catch me next week with Forging Fates. I don't know where my phone is. I'm interviewing Classic Sammy next week, so you can catch that interview. And my phone is blowing up now because I just picked it up. You can catch that interview next week on same time, same place. That being said, I've got nothing else. If you've got nothing else, remember,
I think that's it.
we love you, geeks. Good night.